So with that, please help me welcome Dan Chesbro.
Jeez. I have a delightful surprise for you all toward the end of my talk, so if I don't remember to do something, say you forgot the thing and I'll remember what it is. So Darren and I brought some photos today that are going to blow your mind. You know, they were taken 4 years ago in Boston during the ceremony, and the white light was allowed to be photographed. And so that sensation that you were feeling, it was being photographed. You know, if I put this in my pocket, will it still generate okay? Good, thank you, sir. Okay. Oh yeah, we're doing ordinations today. Okay, how many of you know what today is? What's the holiday today? Well, that and I'll joyfully remind you, it's why I'm wearing red today, actually, because I don't often wear red anymore. Though my mother put it in me constantly. Do you remember the old Dove chocolates that used to have the saying inside, the original ones? Well, I used to wear maroon a lot when my mother would dress me as a child, or red. It was just the thing she did. And as I got to be an adult, I said, I'm not wearing red anymore, get the thing away from me. I would put red on and take it off, because I just couldn't have red on my body. So anyway, I had a job to do down in New York City, probably ordinations or something, and I grabbed some clothes and I grabbed a red shirt to wear and I put it on and it felt comfortable. I thought, oh, okay. So I'm, driving and I'm like noshing and I have a Dove candy wrapper and I opened it up and that's when I realized for the first time that there were sayings inside, like a Chinese fortune cookie. So I opened it and it said to me, I kid you not, you look great in red. So, why today? Today is a very special day, according to the Christians. Okay, we're going to just look at them for a little while. Pentecost, have you heard of it? Yeah. Today is Pentecost. Okay, what does that mean? Well, I'm happy to tell you what it means, okay? Because the theme they told me for the month for you all is embracing change. Well, I'll talk about embracing change. How many of you watched the wedding yesterday? The three of us. I just happened to wake up in time to catch Harriet and his brother walking toward the church, and then I got to see the rest of it. Blew my mind. Blew my mind. Talk about change, right? So when the pastor from Chicago got up to give his talk, I thought that he would open his mouth and out would spill this British, Bermudian, whatever, And he's from Chicago. I'm thinking, oh, right. Well, he gets in and he gets moving. I mean, the power of love and all that. And it was like, and then the choir got up and they're doing Stand By Me and they're rocking back and forth. And God love my British brothers and sisters. They're sitting here like this. No phones. Love it. But anyway, so this morning I'm in the shower where I get a lot of my inspirations in the shower to clean. Don't go there. And I'm remembering history, as I often do, and we have King Henry VIII. God love him, he wanted a son really badly, and he kept chopping off people's heads in order to get one. Inadvertently, I suppose, I don't know. But anyway, Henry made the first major change at that time in history when he became the head of his own church. So he became a Protestant or a Protestant. All right, so he started that, Henry VIII, with a Protestant movement way, way back. Now here's Prince Harry with red hair, coincidentally, which is interesting, marrying an interracially beautiful woman and being introduced by this guy from Chicago, a choir, and I said, look at change. Look at change. We are looking at the power of love with this change, So I got into this Pentecostal thing because I knew a little bit about it, but I learned a lot, and I want to share that with you. Initially, as most of you probably know, Pentecost is a Greek word, Pentecoste, and it means 50, the 50th day. So literally, this would be the 50th day since Easter. or the seventh Sunday. Now, it started out as a Hebrew celebration for harvest because it meant the day that they would harvest the grain and bring it to the temple and honor God with the celebration. Well, they did that. It was called the Festival of Weeks, I think, and it came after Passover. So they did that until 70 AD when the Romans destroyed Jerusalem, tore down the temple, and obliterated the country. You know, they literally salted the land so that nothing would grow in Israel. Not nice people. But anyway, they did all that. So then there was nowhere to bring the grain to. There was no temple. So they changed the celebration from the celebration of the festival of the harvest to the celebration of the giving of the laws at Mount Sinai. So that's what it would be celebrated today. So for a lot of our Jewish brothers and sisters this weekend, this would be a major celebration for the celebration of the Ten Commandments. All right, now let's look back at the Christian movement for a little bit. 50 days ago, and thousands of years ago, what happened in Israel? Well, we had an invading force of Roman soldiers. We had political turmoil going on. We had a priesthood of different sects of Judaism, Zealots, Pharisees, Jews, the different groups. And all of them were not happy about this young 30-ish-year-old who was walking around healing people on the Sabbath and whatever. So when Jesus was executed, he was executed before the Passover because it was illegal to have a crucifixion and a body hanging during the Passover. So his body had to be taken down before sunset on Friday. So Good Friday is the day. And then he was laid in his tomb, of course, and of course, according to the Christian belief, on the third day he rose from the dead, and they went to find him and he wasn't there, and all of that. So he sent his followers, though, before Good Friday occurred, to the town, and he said, follow the man who follow the water bearer, the guy who's carrying the water, and he will take you to a place where there's an upper room, and that's where we will go and we'll observe Passover together. So that's where they all gathered to celebrate Passover later, supposedly, which they never did because he was executed. So that is the same upper room 50 days later that these people who were with this young man who'd been executed gathered again. So can you imagine what that must have felt like? First of all, you're in a country that's being occupied by people who were just brutal to you. And they killed your leader, and he was resurrected from the dead, appeared first to the women, and women were not considered, and still. And so here they are now again, gathered again in this upper room. Now Judas had committed suicide, so Matthias was put in his stead. So he was there, and who else was there in this upper room with him? They had this semicircle gathered around, and in the middle was Jesus' mother, Mary. All right, now look up at the ceiling. See that circle of flowers? That represents the Holy Spirit. That represents the whole Spirit, the Spirit of the whole. And see the flowers that are decorated around that? That's to celebrate Pentecost. And I'll tell you why. Because when they started building these domes in order to honor the Pentecost, they wanted to celebrate in some way the giving of the Spirit of the Holy Spirit to those disciples or apostles that were there. Now, how it was described was, the gathering was the apostles and disciples, Mary and other women. They weren't even given names, right? There were other women that were in the room. And then at a certain time, it was like 3 in the morning or 3 in the afternoon, I forget which now. There was a wind that came through the room. A wind. Now, if any of you were still going to Catholic Church or Episcopal Church or Lutheran Church today, you might have been heralded in by trumpets, because that was the symbol that they would use for the wind. Okay, so a wind came into the room, and then all these people were sitting here, and it said it was as if there was flames of fire above their head. Now, most of us know now that we're talking about crown chakras, right? You know that part. So here we have all these people who had just been through this horrific experience. I mean, what they did to Jesus was horrific, but the Romans did it to discourage anybody from breaking the rule. They wanted to discourage rebellion because they could not control the Israelites. So here are these people, they've been through all of that. It's 50 days later, they're sitting in the same room that they would have celebrated Passover with their teacher. And here they are gathered together, and now here comes this mighty wind. And then above their head were like tongues of fire. Now there were about 120 people waiting outside of this place when this happened. And so when the people came out of the room and they opened their mouths to speak, they were probably speaking Aramaic, but I don't know how many of you are bilingual or whatever, but you would have heard your own language from their mouths. That's what speaking in tongues is. Glossolalia, which is what ecstatic speech is what is practiced in some churches where somebody has ecstasy in speech, ecstatic speech. And then there's to be an interpreter in the congregation to interpret what they got in spirit. That's not speaking in tongues. In fact, there are some churches that used to celebrate this day by having it in many languages. So they would have it in French and German, Italian, whatever, so that everybody would be speaking in their tongue and everybody would be gathered, would be understanding in their own tongue. And that's what that was all about. Now that situation gave rise to the baptism, according to the story, of about 3,000 people. I mean, they were impressed. So 3,000 people were baptized that day. But I dare say they were not baptized the same way that John used to baptize people. Jesus' cousin John, when he used to baptize people, he used to hold on to water a long time. You know what that means. Have you ever heard of near-death experience? That's what John was doing. And what did that do? It quickened their spirit. So when he brought them up out of the water, they were changed. And there were lots of them, but I dare say that probably after John's time that wasn't still done, but symbolically, as it is today. I mean, you can go to church and they use oil or water or squirt gun, whatever it takes. Get you all baptized. So we have the 3,000 baptisms. We have the Holy Spirit, which is what that symbol represents, coming down into the congregation. In fact, in some churches today, they will release rose petals from the top of the church to come down to the people, like the Spirit. And so the garb will be worn in the West would be red to represent the fire, or rose color to represent the roses, which was symbolic of the same event. However, in the Eastern Orthodox Church, the color is green. Why? Because it goes back to the Hebrew celebration, because they used to bring their harvest to the temple, which would have been decorated with lots of greenery and stuff all around here. It's not like the Feasts of Booths that comes in the fall. But so in the East, the priests wear green to celebrate their greenery. And later became the time when it was the birthing of spring. To the ancient Egyptians, it would have been the rising of Osiris. It all kind of goes together, right? So we have this wonderful holiday, and good that you said we're celebrating all your holidays today, because I thought you were going to say, oh yeah, we know it's Pentecost, tell us something new. Now this is interesting, I found. It was said that without that event of the Holy Spirit coming into that group of people and the speaking of tongues, there would not have been a church. It was enough that their leader was destroyed, their movement was ended, they were in danger of being executed themselves, crucified or whatever, which was the idea by the Romans. Don't do this or that's going to happen to you, you know? I mean, look what's going on today in Jerusalem. A lot of tension, turmoil, and they were afraid of that then for their sake in those days, the Romans. So anyway, you know, you put Harry together with what he started with the Protestants, with what happened yesterday in that marvelous wedding ceremony with those two beautiful people, so very much in love, you know, and with the theme of this church being embracing change. Let's look at Buddha for a minute. Now Buddha may not have ever said this, but I love it when I share with you anyway. I've probably done it before, but I want to do it again. Okay, you're really, really young, it's your very first job, and you're gonna get a paycheck at the end of the week. Now, you're out window shopping because you wanna spend that money. You wanna, get used to that idea. And you find this beautiful cup or pottery. And you go, oh, God, I love that. I want that so badly. So you get your paycheck, you run right down to the store, you buy that cup. Buddha says, fine. But when you buy the cup, see it in your mind, see it already broken. Everything changes. And you won't be disappointed. Now, I have collected china over the years, which today is like silly to me, but in those days it was kind of interesting and fun. One of my designs was a Christmas Lennox china. Some of you may have it. What is it? It's clay painted, correct? Basically, it's expensive, but it's clay painted. So my son-in-law at one Christmas festivity broke one of the cups and he said, oh, I'm so sorry. I said, don't you go there. That is a piece of painted clay, forget it. I've already forgotten it, okay? So when we're looking at change, Buddha says, if you were wrapped around the idea of being upset about the breaking of the cup, it causes angst and anger and fear and God was or whatever. So when it comes to change, what is it? It's yes or no. It's a choice. And you have free will. So you get to decide yay or nay about a situation, any situation. It's yes or no. So when it comes to change, it's yes or no. And if it's no, that's when you have pain. Right? Been there? You've all been there. You may still be there. Change. My friend Tom Sawyer, and I'm not talking about Mark Twain. He had a death experience, not a near death. He died and then he came back from the dead. But he said, a change of attitude can shift a galaxy. Now you see a galaxy is all these swirling stars. Well, let's look at it like a metaphor. So it's not like literally a galaxy, but it's all the ideas that you have about yourself. And your attitude about those ideas. And wherever you got them from, but they're yours and they belong to you. And that is you, that's your ego. So change your attitude, you can shift a galaxy. So your attitude about anything right now could be the result of no, 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 rather than yes, please, let's. And no, no produces the angst, and here's your galaxy, but now you're going to change your attitude. And instead of resisting it, you're going to love it. Not just like it or be okay about it, but really be okay about it and love it, and that makes change. So I'm watching this wedding ceremony yesterday, and when I watched the pastor from Chicago and the choir, and I'm looking at the situation, of course now I know that what I learned, which you probably did or didn't know, was during Pentecost Day afterwards, there were celebrations that were done to honor the Holy Spirit descent, and that was ordinations today. Interesting, huh? Ordinations today, confirmation, weddings. Did you notice the color of the garb that the priest was wearing yesterday? Red. And some of the people in the congregation, I noticed this woman's hat. She had on this huge hat, and she had this thing that looked like fire coming out of the top of her head. You see that one? Yeah, I'm thinking, good for her. She knew, And I thought the Queen Mother might wear red, but then she'd probably think that was going to not be a neat thing. You don't want to upstage the bride, But it was looking at the whole world is changing. And what is your attitude about that? Can you embrace that? Of course you can. You make a choice. It's yes or no. And what does no do? It reduces pain. Who needs pain? Change of anything. So it's an amazing situation that we're going through right now globally, not just in this country with our politics and all that insanity that's going on, but it's a global affair. This is the end of the patriarchy. Thank God for women and for men. It's a burden. Okay, but we're seeing that everywhere. Women are now allowing to drive themselves in automobiles in Saudi. What used to happen to women 20 years ago, if you were caught driving a car, literally your head was chopped off. And it's a young man in his 30s, a young prince, who says, therefore you shall drive cars. You don't need the man's permission. That's happening all around the world. It's a wonderful time to be here, to be alive, to see the things that are changing. Chip Ayrton and I were talking sometime during the last couple of days. We love to laugh and eat. That's what I do when I come here. And then this is like a side job, you know. But now what was I going to tell you? I forgot. You get old, you forget everything. And that's not a bad idea. I remember, Paul. I'll keep going and then it'll come back and it'll hit me in the head. So we have, this incredible global shift going on, and we have all these changes and all these points of women rising. The Me Too movement, all of that is happening, and that will also continue, not just in this country, but all around the world, which gives everybody cause for thought. Now what? Well, make your world happen. What I loved about what the pastor said yesterday was about the power of love, but that love had the power to change. Remember what he said? I was getting ready to come here today to talk to you about Pentecoste and all that kind of stuff, but he said, fire was the first invention. We got fire, and then we learned how to cook food, and da-da-da-da-da, so fire is a change agent and all that. He said, the next great invention would be the power of love. That love will change the planet. And here he is sitting in a room full of people who are experiencing the power of love. The love of these two people, going back to Henry VIII, to Prince Harry, to the changes that were being implemented right there in that room that were being done. Now, all the attitudes of all those people would have been marvelous if they could have all gotten into it with the choir. They would have really celebrated this wedding, they'll get there, they'll get there. But this global changes is fascinating. I have a son in India, not legally, but spiritually adopted son. He's a king now. He was not even a prince when I first knew him, and he was ordained. And he said to my ex-wife, he called her mom, he said, Mom, when Dad talks, I could feel energy going through my body. And I want that. Do you think Dad would ordain me? She said, ask him. And of course I would. So Sanjar got ordained in Egypt, and he's a Muslim. And the things that he was not supposed to do, he went on to then do, because he changed. 2 years ago on Father's Day, he came to see me for Father's Day. And he walked into my kitchen and I said, hey, your grandfather was a king, and now he's passed, and then your father became the king, and he passed. I said, that means you're the king. And he blushed. I said, it's nice to be the king. His two young sons had never even met his people. So he said, well, Dad, I took my sons to meet our people in whatever part of India, because it used to be a collection of states, as you all know. And so, but he and my daughter fell in love when they were in Egypt together. Now he's Muslim, she's nondescript, whatever, because I didn't raise my kids with religion. I thought, find what you want, you can have it, But she said, Dad, I can't live in that country. I just can't do that. I said, well, he can't leave his country to be with you, so there it says. Well, he had to get married, according to their tradition. His wife was Hindu. So she had to convert, she had to change to be Muslim, and she did. Because they were royalty, their wedding went on for like days. And the brides were red over there, actually. So it was interesting because he said to my daughter when they had met again after so many years of not seeing each other, they still love each other. He said, when I turn 60, I will send for you. And I said to her, will you go? She said, yes. He's one of the only men I really loved. I said, honey, everything's changing. As my mother used to say, it turns on a dime. And so it does. So perhaps one day that king in India will marry my daughter, and she'll either move there or he'll come here, or none of that really matters. It doesn't matter that the cup is whole or broken. It's your attitude about it. And if you're willing to accept change, as those people were forced to look at it yesterday and experience it, and the whole planet is going through change right now, those who resist it, go ahead, it's going to change. Everything will change, and it is happening. From the minute we're born, we're starting to die. Now that's change. What I learned from my good friend Tom was that there is no death. There's only life, and it's forever, and we're older than the universe we hang out in, for heaven's sake. So talk about change. Our whole universe right now is about to start to constrict. It'll take millions of years for it to fall in on itself, as it's done 3 other times. This is the 4th time that time is coming to an end. And then there'll be another big bang, and it'll expand, and it'll go out, and it'll take another billions of years for the universe to grow again. But it'll be a different vibration, because right now everything is carbon-based. In the new universe, it won't be like that. It'll be something else, and so it will be something else. Now, we're descendants from a molecule away from chimpanzees or whatever, but that's what we are. But we're infused with spirit. Talk about spirit, okay? How many of you have done this DNA thing? You spit in the tube and send it off, and they tell you where you're from. Well, my experience with that was this. Here I've got this thing from my ex-wife. She bought us all this DNA kit thing for Christmas, right? And I'm getting ready to spit in the tube, and I hear my mother's voice, "You're not supposed to spit." I said, "But Mom, I've got to spit in order to get the test results." So I spit in the tube, set it off, and then I was like anciently waiting. Now, when I was much younger, which was a long time ago, I asked her around one St. Patrick's Day, "Do we have any Irish?" She said, "We're all from Scotland, we're all Scottish." And she said, I said, "None?" She said, "Well, one of them may have jumped the fence, who knows?" Hold your hats. Irish. I got my DNA back. I was flabbergasted. So Grandma Mary McFarlane, was probably Irish, but had moved to Scotland and came from Scotland to the United States. All right, but I should be an orange today because I'm Northern Ireland. What else am I? I'm a hodgepodge. I'm really a mutt when you come to think of it. I could have greeted you today with aloha. Yes, and Samoan, Tongolese, Filipino, Mexican, American, Texan, Southern, Native American Texan, because I kid you not, my family came over on the Mayflower. My middle name is Alden. I was named after John. Who cares? But anyway, I always thought we were English. Very little. Danish. Yeah, John Alden was a Dane. And he was married to a French woman, Moulin, not Mullen, Moulin. And her people got the king to sign the Magna Carta. Who knew, right? So anyway, they come over from Plymouth to Plymouth Colony, They settled, and then they settled. One of my ancestors' names was William Chesbro, and he was a Viscount to King Charles I, which is like a sheriff or something. Well, in order to honor William, King Charles gave him a plot of land in the New England, and that ended up being the southern part of Connecticut. So William came over and he looked at it and he didn't like it, so he walked away from it. Well, that part of southern Connecticut was in turmoil for a long time because it doesn't belong to Massachusetts, it doesn't belong to Connecticut, it just belonged to Rhode Island, nobody knew. They finally settled that. And the town that was there then was called Southern Town. Today that place is called Stonington. And I have tons of relatives who live there. Now, when I got my DNA thing back, there's a section called migrations. Because I also have Finnish, Russian, Polish, Middle Eastern Jewish, which is not a nationality, we all know that, but they included that in there. Spanish Peninsula, Northern and Southern Italian, all those other places I mentioned. My daughter said, Dad, let's face it, our family partied all around the world. Obviously, they enjoyed life. Be fruitful and multiply. They obeyed. But the Irish part I loved. I really celebrated being Irish this year. I really enjoyed that part. So what happened? My people, from my dad's side anyway, they came over on the Mayflower and they settled upper New England and did all that stuff and killed off a lot of Indians, shame on us. And then they migrated. They got as far west as Iowa. So a lot of the towns in Michigan are named after towns in upstate New York and also back in New England. And you get back there and then in 1848 when they discovered gold? Does anybody know the year? It doesn't matter. Well, they discovered gold. Guess where my people went? Right down to California. All right, so that's where my Native American influence comes in, because it's Native American, Southern Texan, Northern Mexico. So my relatives went down there and enjoyed the senoritas, etc., whatever they were, and had all that experience. So I watched the family move from Denmark. And when they left Scotland because Queen Elizabeth decapitated her cousin Mary. And when that happened, a lot of my people left Scotland and then eventually came over here. So it was interesting to go, if you've not done this, and if you've got all these ideas about who and what you are, of course, we all know that we're all brothers and sisters. We all come from two people from Western Ethiopia. One man, one woman, and their descendants were all of those. They went up north, and then they migrated from the Middle East into Europe, where they were still Neanderthals. Who knew? All right, but they had something in their DNA that we did not have. Had we not mingled with them, we wouldn't be here today. They had something that allowed them to survive. Well, we were too many, and they finally passed on. But some of you are going to get this DNA thing back, and it's going to say you have Neanderthal. Interesting. Now, the other group went to the west from the Middle East, and they went into Asia, Mongolia, where there's another group of people who had a DNA thing, variant from ours. They mingled with them, and then that group crossed over the northern part of what we now have the Aleutians, which was dry land then, because the oceans were about 350 feet shallower than they are today. Now they're rising again. Used to be able to walk from Mongolia all the way to eventually the end of South America. So our family went over the land bridge. When the ice melted from the glaciers, that's when they could get through there to go down to Central and then eventually South America. If you look at photographs of the Sioux Indians from, 1860 or so, do they not look like people from Mongolia? Well, that's where their whole generations had come from. So anyway, but all of those people, and then the others went over there. Now, the dry land also included the islands of Micronesia, New Zealand, and Australia. That was all dry land long ago. But now it's islands, and some of them are now already underwater because the oceans are rising. So there's one group of people on this planet that did not go through a lot of change with DNA, and those are the indigenous peoples of Australia. So if you want to know what we were like, and there was an island in the South Pacific that was destroyed by a volcano, and those people were really, really short, but they were our descendants, and it all came from those two people from Africa. So I'm having all this in my brain. I'm watching this wedding, and I'm seeing this incredibly beautiful mixture of people of all different skin tones and backgrounds and whatever. I'm thinking, we're all family. And what brings us together? What ended the Hatfields and the McCoys' turmoil? Love. Plain and simple. And a change of attitude. Right? Yeah. So what have we got every day that we have our breath and we're still here? Choices to make about anything, an attitude. So, now that I've said all that, I want to tell you a little bit about the very first ordination that happened in upstate New York at my farm, in a little town called Canisius. In fact, it is so small, it doesn't even show up on some maps. It takes 3 seconds to drive through my town. Well, after I was given this call to call the priest, as she shared with you, I wasn't sure that I wasn't really crazy. I mean, come on, you're hearing voices and you're being asked to call priests. I'm Protestant, we don't even use the P word. Pastor, I get, all right, but priest, protected by St. Michael, we don't do St. Michael, anyway, so I set a date. After I talked to a friend of mine, I got the call to call the priest. I went into the next room, and another friend of mine, Tom Smith, was there. And he was there for meditation. He now lives down in the Carolinas with his wife. And I said, Tom, I've just been given this commission to call priests. He said, I want to do it. How do you do it? I said, I don't know how to do it. I've never been trained. I don't know what to do. He said, well, I want to do it. So for some reason, I went back into the dining room area, which is just 2 or 3 steps away, picked up the phone, and I called a friend of mine down in Queens, New York, Dolores Portman Brooks, lovely African-American lesbian lady. I said, Dolores, I've just been given this commission to call the priest. She said, when do we do it? I'll be there. I said, oh my God, You know the tarot deck, some of you do. There's a card called the Fool. And he's dancing off a cliff and following a butterfly and all this. And here I go, I'm dancing off a cliff, and all these people are going to follow me. Not good karma. The date that was chosen was April 22nd, 1986, Easter Sunday. It was March. In upstate New York, it can still be snowy, as you know from living in this part of the world. That March was very warm, if not comfortable, on that day. So we opened the windows in the room that was going to be the ceremony, just to kind of cool it down a little bit. Getting ready to start the ceremony, and a wind came through the room. Then we did the ceremony. She was first, ladies first. And then he was ordained. So the first 2 priests were ordained back on April 22nd, 1986. Now there are nearly 16,000. But that's where it started. From a person who wasn't even sure he was sane, that I wasn't even sure I was doing the right thing, And then the next month there were 4. And then the next month, so there have been ordinations for 30-something years now, and I have been all around the world twice doing the ordinations. Most of them here in this country because it's where I live, But during the first year of the ordinations, I used to be taller, for one. You should shrink when you get older. I used to be about 6'3". I had an afro, with naturally curly hair, and it was dark. And so I was going to be going down to Raleigh, North Carolina to do a ceremony. Now, I prepared to show you some slides today. So this is visual aid day. When I was in college, they said if you're a teacher, you should use visual aids, so it'll help people understand what's going on. What I'm about to show you, you make your own decisions about what you're looking at. But when I saw the photographs of the first 2 pictures, I went, oh my God, And the photographer thought, well, what happened? Was it the camera? Was something? Remember cameras? Come on, you all have selfies. We used to have cameras. Remember cameras? Film. Eastman Kodak, right? Well, talk about change, my God. So they said, no, there was nothing wrong with the film or the camera, but this is what we got. So that was 30 years ago or more. And 4 years ago, I was in Boston, Massachusetts, in Andover, where I go to seminary. It's interesting how things come around. And I was scheduled to do ordinations at a Unitarian church. And they had rented the sanctuary for the event, and there were, I don't know, maybe 50 people there or so. That morning I woke up, I had such back pain I could hardly walk. So I called my daughter, I said, Patty, my God, what am I gonna do? I've gotta work today. She said, well, Dad, take some ibuprofen. I said, well, how many? She said, well, you can take up to 8. I said, all right, so I took ibuprofen, I went to work. Now, the result of that was not what you're gonna see, but what you're gonna see is the result of my being there and the people who came. But during the ordination, someone with a selfie, whatever that thing is, was taking pictures. Now, I came home from Boston, I was getting ready to send out the certificates, and I got an email from one of the women, and she said, these pictures are rather interesting, we thought we would share these with you. I said, oh, great, thank you. Well, when I got them, I went, oh my God, I have not seen this in 30 years. Because what they captured on film is what you're going to see. The last time I was at this church was, 3 or 4 weeks ago. I walked into the sanctuary to make sure, there were no mirrors, there were no windows, so that couldn't have been that anyway. The room seemed smaller than it was before. There were 55 people to be ordained there that day. And one woman came up to me after the ceremony and said, look at it. And what was above our heads while we were in ceremony was a circle of stars. Now that slide I can't show you because I don't have that picture, but what I'm going to show you now are the results of the other things. Okay, he says, I point this toward you.
There's one up there now, Dan.
One up there.
Oh, up here. Oh, yeah, this is me. See, I look like Art Garfunkel with a mustache. I'm wearing a galabeah, which is a pink robe from Egypt. And the woman whose face is being blocked off there to protect the innocent, whatever that means, is Jillian. And she's being ordained. And the woman behind her is Phyllis. She's already been ordained. And I'm doing the ordination ceremony. Now, see this ball of white light? Okay, now do I do anything here or do you do it there? I do it here. Okay, I push this. I point it toward you.
No.
The right side. Oh, thank you. See that? Voila. Can you see the spin of the light as it goes up? Now, this is interesting. It's not my shampoo. I have a halo. Do you see it around the top of my head? Jillian, you can't even see Jillian. That light was spinning and becoming one with us as we were going through the ceremony. This happens at every single ordination. It's not often photographed, but this is what happens to everybody. She's not special. God love her. She called me later. She said, well, of course you know why that happened. I'm going, oh, please don't go there. And she said, well, you were dating a high priestess. And I knew I wasn't. But I called Tom just to make sure. And he said, no. He said, her ego needs that, so leave it alone. I said, fine. Now, are you doing that up there? The next one? Okay, let's do that. Okay, now this was 4 years ago in Boston. Now, because of how the light's hitting it, you can't quite see it as well, but look over the shoulder of this woman. See the white there? And then on the table, that white there? Okay, now this is the very beginning of the ceremony. Okay, let's look at the next one. Above my head is the white light, and then I'm just starting the ceremony with her, and on the table is still this white light. Okay, the next one. The next one. When I met a acupuncturist friend of mine in Florida, and he saw me as my body has become, he said, oh, look at what the energy is doing to your body. I'm not complaining. All right, next one. Next one. Now this one was taken with my big belly. I call that my Buddha belly. In Buffalo, just a few months ago. And this woman had taken 500 pictures. This is the only one that came out like this. And this was her ordination. Jim and I were looking at this last night, and you can see the beginning of a rainbow. Can you see it? On the outer part? Yeah. Now, one of the symbols of the priesthood or whatever, which has kind of become that, is a cone of energy. And on the front of the book, the order of Melchizedek is a column going through a disc and an orb. This column showed up in this photograph. And when you look at that in another way, you can see the light pouring through that column, but that was, coming in at the time of her ordination. Okay, the next one. Now, this young woman is a Reiki master. And several months ago, I was in somewhere, and this woman came up to me. She said, "Oh, my Reiki master was ordained by you," and she said that I should come and be ordained too. I said, "Oh, great, So anyway, I started showing these pictures because I carry them with me in a folder. And when she saw that, she said, "Oh, that's my Reiki teacher." I said, "And how different is she now?" She said, "Oh, she's incredible." Because not only was she great before, but now she's incredible. Because it does change your life. It does change your life. Okay, the next one. Now, see, people said, "Well, was there a window behind you? Was there a mirror?" Well, I went to make sure that there wasn't when I went there 2 or 3 weeks ago, and there's not just a wall like this. So the light was being present. Okay, the next one.
There's no more.
Oh, that's it. Okay. Well, there are others, and if you're here this afternoon, I'll show you the rest. But it was interesting to me that in the very beginning, I was doubting whether or not this was real. What am I doing? And this would be heresy according to the religion that I was raised in, which was pretty open-minded anyway. But, when we started that day with the wind coming through the room, and then the ordinations, and then the other ordinations, and then more ordinations, and women kept coming to me and saying, it's kind of a joke in the church. It said, "Look, every time you come into town, I get my period." I said, "I'm sorry." But the energy, as Edgar Casey said, as a woman begins to develop her body, and through meditation and prayer, it can change your menstrual cycle. Right? So this ordination has been able to shift energy for people in a lot of ways. It is a life-changing event. So why me? I haven't a clue. But my friend Tom Sawyer said, "You're going to do this till the day you die, and no one's to help you in the ceremony. And before you die, you'll have a dream or a vision, whether you pass this on to somebody else, or whether you take it back with you when you go home." I'm still here. No dreams, no visions, so you're stuck with me for the time being. But it's been quite a journey from this little Protestant kid raised in the ghetto in Connecticut, in an old Navy town, which later became a ghetto. Going to college, which I didn't even know existed, then going to university, getting degrees, going to get a master's, going to seminaries. I went to 3 of them, and then coming out, having my own church, and then doing this work, which in a way had nothing to do with what I was about to do later in life. This is 33 years later, I guess. But to realize the impact on the world for change, Tom Sawyer called one day and he said, "Hey, we have priests in every major continent on the planet now. Even in the Pentagon, we have priests everywhere." And he said, "And there is no doctrine, there is no dogma. I'm not your boss. I'm not your pope. You're free. Most clergy that you all know are not free. They're hamstrung by a doctrine, a dogma, a dress code or something, but they're not free. And most of them are only male. We have none of that." So as the world is changing and evolving and continues, it's just delightful to know that in some way, with what I'm able to do or what I do is changing that as well. And yet the people that are being affected by the changes are the husbands and the wives. Among people who have near-death experience, the divorce rate is very high because their partner can't accept the change. So usually within 2 years you're divorced. That's not true here, but there have been lots of changes. People move a lot. They go to different places. They meet new people. A lot of things going on. But you will not be the same person. What happens? You walk in with an aura. My aura is green. It's not easy being green. But there's more gold in your aura now. That's what that fire, that light does. Because Tom Sawyer was there when his wife got ordained, and he said to me later, he said, "Kid, you're playing with fire." I said, yes, I know. So when these people choose to be ordained, every one of them has this experience of this energy. And it's a life-changing event. It may change your relationship, it may change where you live, what you do, whatever, but it's helping you in your path. All right, so here you've got this beautiful cup, and now it's broken. You can use the broken pieces to make other things. Let me tell you something, and then I'll be quiet. My time is up, pretty much. Well, actually, I had a dream and they told me that my time is almost up. When I first came here, almost 30 years ago, this sanctuary had pews and a more traditional makeup, although it had already begun to change. From then till now, total change. I was asking Jim, I said, do you have a spirit hold on this? And he said, I don't know. I don't remember that. Jim, you do. And it's surrounded by flowers, which is symbolic of the Pentecost. Okay? But it was sort of Christian-based. During a short time, there were Buddhists here, Native Americans, yoga teachers. You've seen it all change and evolve. Then you were what, hit by lightning? The dome? And there was destruction. The pews were then taken out. I was delighted to see that happen. Because then you're free to change and do things down here. But talk about change. But your attitude about that is important. Are you okay with that? Well, yeah. Or no. You know, there's your pain. So embracing change is a good thing. When I started out to come here this weekend, I had a shirt that I was going to wear, and I went to put it on, and it didn't fit well. And I thought, nah. So that was my first change. I got a different shirt on, not this one, a different one. Then I got to the airport, pulled up to the driveway. They were now changing all the front of the airport. So it was all being redone. I had to take another route to get into the airport. I'm laughing because talk about change. Then I get in there, I get my flight, everything's all set. I'm ready to fly out here to Minneapolis. And I hear my name through the speaker system. Mr. Chesbro, would you please go to gate A8? You know, so I went thinking, I've got all my stuff, you know. We're making a change for you. There's more? Oh, yes. You're going to Chicago. You're not going to Philadelphia. So, oh, that's okay with me, you know. So from Chicago, I came here. But all along the way, there were these little changes. Now, if I was stuck in my stuff, I would have had a miserable day. I'm laughing. I'm here to talk about, in fact, I said to the stewardess, I'm here to talk about change. Isn't this funny? You know? So that's how it is. The power of love is changing the world, but it can't work without you. Aloha. Guten Tag. Ho. Ohio. That's Japanese. Okay, you probably know lots of languages. Buenasera or whatever, you know. Embrace the difference. That's what makes everything beautiful. If this glass was only one color, it would be okay, but it's not. It's a lot of colors. And we are too. Happy Pentecost Day. Aloha. Oh. Do you all realize that we came really close about, not even a month ago, by being struck by another asteroid? Did you hear about that? Yeah. It was close, but obviously we're still here. Now, my friend Tom Sawyer didn't talk about death, but he talked about graduation. And what he said was, there is no death, but we're all in school. We're here to learn about love and creativity against the backdrop of greedy ego. Surprise. All right? And he said, you stay here as long as you're here to learn in or to teach about love and creativity. When your work is done, you graduate. So recently, I've had friends graduate, and I was celebrating for them. It wasn't, how can you be sad when somebody's graduating? You know? So whether you're here as a stillborn, or whether you're here to live to be 120, whatever it is, the day you, as we used to say, die or pass or whatever,
is the day you graduated. Right? So look forward to your graduation. As Buddha would say, anticipate your graduation. Sit down and meditate every day and think about how you want that to be. And however you think it will be, as you know. Okay? So may the Lord be with you, and in spirit with you for now and forevermore as it will be. Love yourself as God does, which is unconditionally. Allow yourself to both give and receive. That's a law. Some of you are good on one side but not the other. Allow yourself to give and receive and be open to change, because God knows it's here. Love you all.